15 minutes, we'll be able to open the meeting officially. But I think we're going to start. We are also recording the meeting just for your awareness, so we'll be posting it on the city's website. And I think the first thing that we're going to do is have a welcome from a very special guest, a friend to all, our Assistant City Manager, Mr. David McCary. So David, thank you so much for coming.
I've got to be just a few notes. I'm gonna cheat just a little. How's everyone doing today? Good. Now, I have to tell you this just for starters. Our Climate Advisory Committee, y'all are really like 2.0. It's new, improved. There was nothing wrong with what happened first, but I do want to kind of share a little of the differences there. Because some of you may remember when we adopted the Climate Action Plan in 2019, how that blossomed. And we kind of talked about two different elements that were consistent. One was the technical side, community advisory. The second side was more of your equity assessments, kind of bringing all those together. Wait till y'all hear what 2.0 really represents. Y'all gonna like laugh at this because you have to do all of that and some, right? One of the things that was clear to me back in 2016, even before I went into the city manager's office, keep in mind, I'm the David McCary that used to work on the back of garbage trucks, brought the automated collection system here to San Antonio and kind of work with those 3-cart systems. And we were able to do it without one employee ever being laid off. So that's like phenomenal in itself, right? But through that innovation, things continue to, I always kind of watch from the sideline, like cheering for Doug and his team. Like, come on, let's do this, let's do this. So here's to not belabor the point, but I want to share with you what I think is your 2.0, if I may, for a minute. So we know this is a journey. It's not just your typical roadmap. There's journey here, and 2.0 means that when you take on the face from an equity lens, remember that all of you now have to have all these special skill sets. And even if you don't have them, you always have to be in a position to collaborate and kind of build on each other's expertise and kind of walk away with more knowledge. So here's the first part, 2.0. Woo. So your technical expertise is still needed. It's a clear element in how we try to climate mitigation and adaptation to constant changes. Things change all the time. Your community advisory, part of that means that you still have to be engaged with the community. So there are going to be times where neighbors, coworkers, business partners, associates at work may just ask you, tell me about your climate advisory duties and talk about this journey with me. So you still have to remain that technical, because remember, technical is just like anything else. Y'all have all seen case studies and where you build on knowledge and one university picks up a case study and then they add to it and they go back and reference. None of this is make-believe. None of this is made up. This is real science. And y'all get to be a part of all those things. When we talk about the climate equity advisory part of this, keep in mind that we still have communities that have been marginalized. And sometimes the decisions and policies that we make could directly or indirectly impact them. And that's the last thing we're trying to do, is to set anyone further back from where they need to be, or how do you level set and create this level playing field for everyone. Also, it's important for areas related to plan implementation. You know, sometimes a plan could be good, but if you implement it wrong, that plan could look pretty crappy. It can really look bad. So even your plan implementation, some of you, your expertise might be to share some of your thoughts there. And it's always great to have that representation from different perspectives. If all of you are on the same page, you all agree, I don't know, each of you were appointed by council members. So I know this is a great thing because they don't always agree, you know? So, but the point is the different perspectives is what will value as you hear others out. So from that part, that's so important. The last point to this, I kind of did like A, B, C, and D, but the last point is to support collaboration. Most of the successful advisory boards are those that listen to each other, so that when you walk into the room, always remember there's someone in the room that has the answer. They might be in the back of the room, they might be an advisory member that no one's ever asked them their opinion, never asked what they thought, and the answer's right there. Don't let that answer leave the room without getting the answer, so that y'all can work collectively together. There's a lot of work that y'all will find has happened since the last advisory board member has come into play. All of that was a part of the marching orders that we received from the last advisory board. So Doug's team, you'll see and you'll hear about all the great work that's going on. So I'm gonna save that for Doug and his team to share that with you. I would love for y'all, if you don't mind, to introduce yourselves and kind of.
That's coming next.
That's coming next, so stay stick to my script.
Yeah.
Nothing else, okay. So I'll let him do that. But we're excited, glad to have you, glad to be a part of this. And if there's anything that I can do to help this journey in your transition, always remember, as an ACM, Doug will tell you, my role was to keep the runway clear. Just keep it clear, allow y'all to take off and land successfully. And y'all got a lot of good things to do. So
Great.
turn it back over
Thanks
to
so
you,
much.
Doug.
Thanks,
Thanks for
David.
the invite.
So we got a lot to cover today. Doug Mello, Chief Sustainability Officer. Again, we're waiting for a quorum to do some of the roll call and some of the public comment. But basically, we start our meetings with a land acknowledgement. We'll go over meeting norms. We have a very short icebreaker exercise. Again, we'll want to see you guys to talk, who's here, as well as get some really some initial priorities related to SA Climate Ready Plan. Talk a little bit about what is the point of this committee, and what are the expectations. Then we're going to dump a bunch of stuff on the climate plan. Just some of you were there from the beginning, others are new to the table, but what is it? Why do we have it? And how we're implementing it. Talk a little bit about next steps, and then we'll adjourn. So we're going to try to get you out on time. So we'll pause on that. So in terms of that land acknowledgement, I'm sure folks are aware of land acknowledgements, but basically we want to acknowledge that the indigenous populations whose land we're on. There's a lot of knowledge that one could learn. We definitely need to acknowledge it. So and I think one of the things we're thinking going forward, we'd love to really sort of embed this in our practice and have some of you all also take some ownership of it as well. So it's not just me. But when we talk about climate change, we are talking about what the future holds for our younger new generations and all life on this planet. However, it's important to reflect on those who were here before us for tens of thousands of years, who were stewards of this land, and who continue leading efforts to protect this land. By their example, we honor the 7 generations before us and the 7 generations to come. We acknowledge with respect that the land we are on is the traditional and ancestral homeland of the Coahuiltecan, Kankawa, and Humanos people, and all other tribes not explicitly stated. Not all indigenous peoples listed claim Texas as ancestral lands, and many were forcibly relocated to Texas from their ancestral homelands. Thank you for taking that, allowing me to do that. Meeting norms, very simply, stay engaged, speak your truth, practice kindness, be considerate. No fixing. If somebody's got a different perspective, you may or may not be able to fix that perspective. Try to experience discomfort. We're going to be talking about a pretty contentious and distressing topic. So feel free to embrace that, take risks, listen for understanding, and really perhaps most important in this field, expect and accept non-closure. We're not going to solve the climate crisis here, but we can develop a playbook by how our organization and how our community can do its part. Pause on public comment. So I think what we'll be doing, I'll be passing this over to Z to go over just the introduction and icebreakers.
Hey, hi all. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Sabrina Raposo. I'm the Climate Programs Manager with the department and also the person who's been inundating you with calls, emails, etc. to be here. So as Deputy Mr. McCary noted, we are so happy that you're here. We're hoping that eventually, we'll all be here together so that we'll be able to proceed with the other parts of the meeting. But we just wanted to go through our team and have each of us kind of give a brief introduction to ourselves. So I'm going to start with Ms. Golda Abinzu, who's our Deputy Sustainability Officer. And then, yeah, if you guys can just show me on the order. Who's here?
Ricardo Andres, Sustainable Transportation Manager.
Richard Bautista, I'm the Senior Energy Analyst.
Amber Nava Garcia, I'm the Special Projects Manager in Energy.
Oh,
Let's just step down.
Me, sorry. I'm Leslie Antoinette. I'm the Sustainability Manager for the office. Glad to see you.
and we'd like to have those of you that are here just go around and introduce yourselves. If you guys would like to start, we can just make a circle in this direction. So Lindsay, I believe you're first in the hot seat.
Ratcliffe, I'm here representing District 1.
We have Philip O representing the district.
My name's Sean Donovan, I'm here with the San Antonio River Authority.
My name's Sean Byer, I'm here with the City Attorney's Office, the Advisory Committee.
And I'm Angela Rodriguez, I'm with CPS Energy.
Liza Meyer, appointee for District 10.
Brian Regner, District 8.
Adelita Cantu, District 7.
Christian Nunez Ramirez with District 5.
Wonderful. Well, for our next activity, if you will scan the QR code, we do have a Mentimeter that will it's going to ask you questions when you click that.
Very simple questions.
Linda Hook.
Did everybody get a chance to scan?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Trev. Long Ave. Can we go back? Can we?
Yeah, she's good. For minutes.
Is everybody able to scan in?
It's not working.
It's not picking it up.
I think too much of it is on the top.
Well, there you go.
That worked.
There you go.
Okay, hold on, let me try another. There we go.
So these are basically the different focus areas of the plan, one for mitigation and one for adaptation to start. Wow, so everything.
I think it's still tabulating the votes there. And I wear glasses and I can see this font is very small, so I don't expect I'll be able to read those, but from your phones when you logged on to it. So these are our adaptation strategies, and the goal of this was just to kind of see where everyone lands, what's important to you. And we hope that you've had conversations with your council person, what's important to your district. to kind of help set our goals as well. And so that was the first question. So
Okay, so everybody finish? All right.
let's go to the second question. Oh, there we go. Okay, so what are your top two mitigation strategies was our second question here. And if you all would go through and respond to that one. Should start giving us results here in a second. Well, I like that one. Everybody is really concerned about reducing building energy consumption. Second is to educate and empower. I really believe in that one as well. Previous to joining sustainability here, I worked with the solid waste department along with Mr. McCary, and one of our outreach goals was kind of meeting people where they're at, as well as talking to school children and helping them understand, because we kind of feel that if you start them young, they're going to take that home. They're going to be insisting on doing recycling or planting gardens and doing all of those great things. So a lot of great answers here.
Is there a way to toggle back to the first one? I'm just curious. So improve infrastructure resilience, huge. And then there seems to be a pretty even split between everything else. Public health systems, restore and protect green infrastructure, food security, equity. I mean, these are all key. And I think what you'll see is when we go into the presentation as far as what we're working on, we try to embed all of this, and we have a lot of balls in the air. And what we're going to present today in terms of what we're working on is just a snippet of everything, but we just wanted to give you some sort of flavor for what we're currently prioritizing. So thank you for taking the time. We get back to the presentation.
I'll go with.
There we go. Okay. All right. So I pulled this straight from the ordinance establishing the committee. The mission is to advise city staff and city council on the implementation of the CAAP. And so the term advisory is really important. The committee is not going to be setting policy. It's basically, as we want to update the climate plan, to be implemented, we're going to want to hear your guys' thoughts. We also, and it's not just the climate plan at the end of the day, we've got multiple other plans that the city has, sustainability plan, SA Tomorrow. So really having you guys as a sounding board, and not just for what you think, but for your districts, your council member, your place of business. We want you to sort of also be the eyes and the ears out in the community, listening, understanding and what your priorities are in your circles and bringing them back to us. The other thing is there's a big commitment to equity. Lots of discussion at the federal and state level around DEI and what we should and shouldn't be doing. Equity's been embedded in this organization for years now. And it's as simple as acknowledging that not all of our residents or small businesses experience climate the same way. It doesn't hit everyone equally. And so we just want to acknowledge that. And when we develop solutions, make sure we're prioritizing those most at risk and also including them and prioritizing them in the conversations and the solutions. Expectations, we'll be following up, and I have another slide on this later on, but we'll need a chair and vice chair, who will serve one-year terms and really help lead, this committee. As we noticed, prioritizing being at the meetings. If we don't have a quorum, we won't be able to take any action. So, we commit to getting these meetings on your schedule well in advance, hopefully the rest of the year on your calendars. But getting here is really the most important thing. We'll also be providing some sort of equity training, and it could be as simple as what does equity look like in our community? What are the challenges that our residents are experiencing? What are the climate risks? And as you see, when we talk about the work that we're doing, that's what we're doing. We're trying to really prioritize equity in everything we do. You all can form subcommittees in various subject matters that you think are important. As we go through additional meetings and really come up with priorities, there's always that opportunity. One of the big goals of this group is going to be help with the SA Climate Ready Plan update. So, and we can talk about that more later, but I think that's probably the big focus for the next year and year and a half. We have the 2019 plan in place. We need to update it. That's going to take a lot of time because that really sets the standard for how we go forward. And then, as I had mentioned, members are expected to communicate with your council person or the institution that you represent. We need that communication. And this is, the previous committee was all at large. And what we realized was there was a disconnect between council and the advisory committee because there was no touch base. So the fact that you are appointed by a council member, we really encourage you to meet on a regular basis, keep them abreast of what we're talking about, what our priorities are, and bring back what their thoughts are. At the end of the day, whatever we are bringing forward is going to have to go through council. So we really want to make sure that they're aware and on board with what we're doing as we move forward. Are we good with the notary stuff at this point? We can't do anything anyway. No, you could.
No, well, I mean, I can just say, we're with the Office of the City Clerk, I'm monitoring. Owens is over here. We will notarize stuff tonight. We basically are gonna stay out of y'all's hair, for most things. You'll be going through your board liaisons. There are a couple of things where you might need to touch base with us. If sadly you need to like resign, send us an email. They can tell you how to do that, and then we'll get it disseminated to whoever needs to. We do offer trainings and stuff. You've done some of it. You did our MLI training. Thank you. If you've not done it, thank you for doing it. And then we've got another training that we will get to our folks here regarding Robert's Rules of Order, which all of our stuff, all of our boards and commissions just kind of work on Robert's Rules of Order. So we will send that training out. It's long. Plan on either having a watch party with some popcorn for 2 hours or breaking the rules. Other than that, there's no quorum yet. We are going to wait and see who's coming and who's got their notice statements either signed, or if they're not, we'll get them taken care of. But yeah, just you know that. Thank you for your service. Let me be one of the first people to say that. This is showing up is half the battle, and you guys are here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. So before I jump into like download of the climate plan, I just want to pause and see if there's any questions regarding why you're here, what you're supposed to be doing. Everybody's good? Excellent. Okay. SA Climate Ready overview. Why? I don't know how much I have to tell you, but things are getting extreme. You know, I think whether you're talking about California wildfires, hey, we have a quorum. So if we have a quorum, should we?
Did I get sworn in first and then?
So, or what the flooding in Asheville, I mean, these are, it's extreme, but this is just a snapshot of, I mean, look at 2023. All those red boxes are above average. We had 117-degree heat index day last summer. We had 17 days over 105. So and one of the things that we struggle with all the time, in our office is San Antonio's hot. I remember when I first got here, when I was in work, at the office before I got there, we try to bring up what's coming down the line, and the response was always, "Oh, it's hot." But I think we've reached a tipping point locally where this isn't normal, and people realize that. We also did climate projection with UTSA as part of the 2019 plan. You'll see a low emissions and a high emissions pathway. That all is based upon how much action is taken globally to reduce emissions. We're tracking on the high scenario. So these are old. We need to have them updated because things have changed. But an increase in 10 degrees in maximum temperature, upwards of 100 days, over 100 degrees. Really what's key, another really key indicator is warm nights. We've been seeing this, it doesn't do it. People don't get a break. And then increased drought. I just saw that, the aquifer hit its lowest level in 1990. And then increased flooding, increased storm, vector-borne diseases, cold weather events. I was at a heat meeting with a bunch of other cities in Florida yesterday, and they had a meteorologist from the federal government just downloading all the impacts that we're going to face. Something as simple as our phones may not work because it'll be too hot; they don't cool down, and so it's pretty overwhelming. But the thing that for me I think is so interesting is we're exceeding the climate projections that we had in 2019. On the left is a graph that shows by mid-century we were expecting or projecting 61 days over 100. In 2023 we hit 75. So what we were thinking of in 2019 isn't even what the projections are. So again, this is coming faster, and we need to do everything we can to reduce. Reduce our emissions. But also, really more importantly, we have to really adapt and build resilience in our community. SA Climate Ready. In 2017, Council passed a resolution to meet the Paris Climate Agreement, basically reducing emissions and adapting to climate. In 2019, Council approved the climate plan. It sets an objective to meet carbon neutrality by 2040. And then it needs to be updated every 3 to 5 years. So that's sort of why we're here now. But when we talk to the community about this, we can't lead with a mission. We can't lead with the world coming to an end. People don't respond well to that. But there's all these other benefits to what we're doing, trying to implement the plans, improves air quality, improves public health outcomes, helps with water conservation, helps create jobs, transportation choices, clean and secure energy, and resilience and emergency preparedness. So there's, so even if climate change isn't a thing, if we implement this plan, there's all these other benefits. So we can try not to get pulled into that debate about, well, why are we focusing on climate? At the end of the day, it's about really improving our community for now and future generations. The plan's broken up into 2 sections. Mitigation, those are actions to reduce the emissions that are being produced locally. Comes from CPS, electric generation, the energy being consumed by our buildings, how we get around the city, how we deal with waste. And we have basically that falls under circular economy. We're trying to move away from just, disposing of materials and get to a circular economy while things are being reused, biodiversity and ecosystems, and then as you saw earlier, educate and empower. If we don't have our community understanding and acting, it's going to be really difficult to meet these goals. And then on the adaptation side, again, it's really about how do we improve resilience in infrastructure in neighborhoods and systems. So our plan really embedded with equity, but this is, I think, a really great visual example of why. You'll see the graphic on the bottom left is a map of San Antonio with social vulnerability. Basically, who are those most at risk? The middle graphic shows Eat Island and the graphic on the right shows tree canopy. They line up where our most vulnerable populations are, also are the hottest parts of the city, and also have the least tree canopy. So when we talk about implementing the climate plan, really looking at social vulnerability, really looking at that climate vulnerability in order to prioritize them first, because they may not have the means to respond as well. And I think we saw that with Winter Storm Uri. Everyone was impacted, but not everybody was impacted the same.
And I think.
Do you want to pause and?
Yeah, so, that
Yes,
was
we can get it.
situated.
You got it.
So, let me. Rewind.
The new board members introduce themselves really quickly.
Miriam and Dr. Go.
Yes.
Deborah, could you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Deborah Ponce. I'm a climate justice organizer with Public Citizen. And I'm working with weatherization, green mini splits, and reducing pollution on the south side currently. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much.
I'm Miriam Jessup. I'm an environmental scientist currently working for the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, but here in San Antonio still. I come from Southwest Research Institute prior to working for PNNL, and most of my work relates to energy and sustainability, and so we're looking forward to working on it.
So thank you both. And now, since we're doing things a bit in reverse, I'm going to do the official roll call. Doug can call our meeting to order, and we can hear from our public comment with Dee Dee. So when I say your name, if you'll just respond with present or here. Lindsay Ratcliffe.
Here.
Avancia De La O. Avianca, sorry. Deborah Ponce.
Here.
Cristian Nunez Ramirez.
Here.
Adelita Cantu.
Here.
Brian Reniger.
Here.
Miriam Jeppin.
Here.
Liza Meyer.
Here.
Angela Rodriguez.
Here.
Sean Donovan. Okay, perfect.
Okay, so we have a quorum, so I'll call the meeting to order. Thank you. And the next. 4:42. And the next order of business will be public comment, and we have one person signed up, and it'll be Dee Dee Belmaris. So thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dee Dee Belmaris. I'm a clean energy advocate with Public Citizen. I served on, I've been around since the climate plan was being written, and I served on the Technical and Community Advisory Committee for the first round of this group trying to implement strategies from the climate plan. So I was relieved to see that this committee has been reformed, not reformed. And so happy to see everybody here. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, has said repeatedly that we have 5 years to reduce our emissions by well over 50% if we're going to avoid climate devastation. We're already seeing the climate crisis have impact around the world. We see it here with rising temperatures. Recently, wildfires that seem to be happening all over the country. So we're in the climate crisis, and we are past the time that we address it. It's past the time that we mitigate it. I think Doug put some strategies up there. Let's look at buildings. Let's reduce our energy in buildings. Let's look at transportation, and please let's address our addiction to fossil fuels in powering our city. We are not going in the right direction when it comes to fossil fuels in San Antonio. San Antonio cannot solve the climate crisis, but I think we can do our part. And San Antonio has to do its part because what we do in San Antonio impacts all the other areas around the city. So I look forward to working with y'all. I do all work related to energy and climate. So I will be at all these meetings and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dee Dee. So I'm going to go through the next set of slides as quickly as possible, so we have time just to talk. Right? I'd love to hear all of your thoughts about priorities. How do we move this forward? But I think just to have an open conversation. Basically, whoops, did I? Okay. So just in terms of where we're going next, before I go download all the greenhouse gas, the climate plan, we'll be doing we've already started an update to the SA Climate Ready Plan. We've been updating the greenhouse gas inventory. I've got some slides on that as well. We've done some preliminary, we have a consultant on board doing some preliminary assessments of the 2019 CAP. What are the gaps? What are helping us begin thinking about where do we really need to focus this plan update on? But we're using funds from the EPA Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. That funds are also being used to support ACOG developing an Alamo area climate plan, which is underway right now. We're not starting from scratch. We don't want to throw out what we have. It's the 2019 plan is solid. Everything's in there, but again, we really want to prioritize. So right now, the objectives are to really take a look at our 2050 net zero target. Is that adequate? We want to look at current science to see what should that target be. Other cities have been sort of ratcheting it up or ratcheting it back. Basically, if we're not moving fast enough globally, that means we need to be more potentially aggressive. Again, identifying priority strategies, cost and benefits for those strategies. As we've seen in the previous plan, we can't simply throw out a plan that says we're going to do these things if we don't know what the financial implications are in terms of implementing it, but also what are all those benefits. Want a transparent implementation plan. Again, so people understand that everybody, both the community as well as city leadership, understands what the implications are of implementing this. How are we going to do this? There's no free meal for implementing this. We want to be as transparent about that as possible. We really need more indicators. The first climate plan was very light. Basically, you've got the greenhouse gas inventory as our primary target. There's a few municipal targets. That's not enough. We need to come up with a handful of real trackable measures that are outcomes of this plan implementation, so we know whether or not we are on track or not. It shouldn't just be about our emissions could be going down, but if we're not taking all these other outcomes that need to occur, we're not aligned. We want diverse and meaningful engagement, and that includes not just frontline communities, but it's business, it's institutions. Everyone's got a stake in this. And then again, ensuring that climate equity is central to this plan. We've been having lots of conversations with the community around extreme heat over the last year or two, and people are concerned. People know what's happening, and they want to see action. And so I think the way we do that is by focusing on those most at risk. So the next steps are finalizing our 2023 greenhouse gas inventory. The first plan, we created subcommittees, building, electrification, it was building sector, transportation sector. We'll need to bring other voices to the table. Lindsay could tell you how that went. But we'll be following up with you on that process, and that could be open to other external experts for voices. They don't need to be they don't need to go through council appointment process as long as they're bringing technical support or really important voices to the table. They can serve on the subcommittee. Correct, Sean? Good. Just want to make sure. And then finalize and begin the implementation of engagement. Again, that's the core of it. So we're meeting with our consultant next week, just sort of figure out where we are in the process. And so when we come back to you, we'll be able to give you a much more complete timeline of what's going to be happening between 25 through 2026. Any questions on, yes?
When you say consultant, who is that?
So- Yep, so basically, we have selected WSP. They've been working on the ACOG climate plan for a good year now. That draft plan should be, hopefully released in the next month or two. But they've got a solid team. The key that, there were two ways we could have done the plan update. Austin, the city of Austin also got a similar grant. They just hired a whole bunch of staff, additional staff. We wanted to go the consultant route because they have a real deep bench of technical experts to help us. Yeah, so I envision over the next meetings that we have, WSP will be coming and running through some processes with you. Yes.
So the EPA grant, is that one that is already in place?
So, yes, things were pretty hairy for a couple months, where we would, it was crazy. All of the dashboards, it would be down one day or be up another day. We've been able, I think things have settled down. I think what we were running into is federal program staff had even less idea what was going on. And so things are moving, we've been able to draw down. So we're hoping for the best. So I think we're moving forward. I mean, from our perspective, we've got an agreement with the federal government. Legally, they can't claw back. However, they could slow things down by reducing staffing levels do you have any thought, anything you want to add to that? Oh, yeah, that's smart. But yeah, no, I think, and the message that we've gotten from the city manager's office is we're moving forward. You know, that we're not going to suddenly stop. These are our dollars. They're committed, and we just need to keep moving forward. We need to be pragmatic, but stopping isn't an option. So now I'm going to touch base on the greenhouse gas inventory. So you all, just in case you guys don't know what greenhouse gases are, I'm sure you all do. These are natural and man-made emissions. Things like carbon dioxide, methane, they stay in the atmosphere for a period of time and they heat us up. And then all the fun stuff happens once we start putting more and more heat inputs into the global system. Again, they're good, but when there's too many, not so good. This is a snapshot of our 2021 inventory. Again, 2023 inventory completed. We're doing some QA, QC on it. Hopefully in the next month or so. We want to give council a quick heads up first before completely releasing it. But basically, the good news is the emissions are continuing to go down. I believe we've reached peak emissions, and even though we're growing, emissions continue to go down. I think a lot of that has to do with CPS energy and decarbonizing the grid. But in 2021, you can see really similar to previous inventories, it's our building energy consumption and our transportation sector. That's the big, and that's similar to most cities. And then this is just a snapshot of our trends. We've done an inventory since 2013. And you can see between 2019 and 2021, we saw a dip, but for context, this is 2030. 2050 is all the way down here. So I believe staff had done an assessment. We need like a 5% reduction per year. And we're not doing it. So that's going to become, and that's based upon a 2050 target. So if that doesn't suffice, this is a big challenge, how to actually reduce emissions. Did you have?
Yeah, I was thinking, so I have the grand task of the greenhouse gas inventory for USAA. Woo. And your QA/QC process, are y'all required as much as we are to do a reasonable third-party assessment or an audit?
We've been working with Italy.
Yeah.
As our consultant to help validate the data, but there's no reporting requirements. Only thing we need to do is report our electric consumption to the state, but nothing on.
That doesn't require a third-party audit.
We do use, two international protocols. We use local government operations protocol, and then, oh my God, my mind is just. It's the global protocol for community scale emissions. So we do follow protocols, but we're not required to do third-party validation. Yes.
I wasn't sure I'm reading this correctly. So the 1921 sector trends, so I like with empty industrial energy, is that a negative?
That's a negative. So basically, we
So
saw.
we've gone backwards with that one.
But what I would say is that, yeah, one of the things thank you for saying, I just wanted to say this and I forgot. There used to be a time when local governments really got into the weeds on emissions and employers, like really trying to get, we need to account for every molecule. Things have sort of changed where it's it's an important guidepost. But we know what needs, so we try not to prioritize the minutia too much. But what I would say is the industrial energy is a smaller component of the overall energy sector. I mean, it really is, and you can, and I think you could also top the Angela's. It really is. It's residential and commercial are the real big ones. Industrial is smaller than you think.
But the bottom line is still negative.
Yes.
3 point.
Yeah, between 2019, between 2019 and 2021, we saw a 3.46% decrease in emissions in the community.
A decrease.
Decrease, a reduction.
So, got it. Okay, so I was thinking the other way around. So in residential energy, there was an increase of 6%.
Correct.
Okay, I've got it. I'm reading it correct now.
Yeah, my apologies. Lisa,
Liza.
Who's requiring you to do that third party?
Oh, gosh, so we're getting ready for California regulation for 2026. And that is scope 1 and scope 2. Scope 3 is around 2030. And so we are required a reasonable assessment or a limited assessment, and it must be a third party. I mean, it's a good practice to check our numbers. I have a great group that's helping me do the calculations. But Apex or other, I mean, it comes out clean and so, but we also report to the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. They do not require reasonable assessment. It's nice for them to see it. That way they see our back. Now, scope 3, which is employee commuting, travel, that will be coming in 2030 and we're pretty ready.
Just one real quick question here. So when we're looking at transportation and mobile, I want to make sure that, okay, so that went down, but how much of that was sort of a COVID dip and people not driving?
That's
possible.
Yeah.
And you still have a large workable population.
Yeah, that's true. Did you, Andre, do you have anything to add regarding that? Yeah.
So, yeah, those COVID numbers are the dip exactly where, exactly the, right, like, into it, like, this exactly what I said. So you have a big one.
Yeah, I mean, you see, when you look at overall kilowatt hour consumption for even for our buildings, when you compare pre-COVID versus COVID time period, that is a dip that we cannot take credit for. Because we had buildings that were unoccupied. But it's always interesting to see. So, unfortunately, we cannot. We don't credit that, but in this case, we are crediting the COVID.
So this is just another way of looking at the inventory by per capita. The issue is our target isn't based upon per capita, it's based upon gross emissions, but as a growing city, this is one of the challenges that we have. You can see between 2019 and 2021, 7.2% growth, but we're able to experience 10.7% reduction per capita. So that's good news. But again, getting back to that previous slide, that's really what this is about growth emissions. And when you're growing, it's just that much harder to get a handle on reductions. Okay,
Oh, bummers. I was hoping to see offsets.
offset,
Well, I guess all the credit we're taking for, CPS Energy, so.
it's all built in, it's all built.
All built
it's all
into
built.
one.
Basically, when we do the inventory, Angela gets us, carbon intensity and
Okay.
all the
Electric.
electric stuff in, and it's all in there. So now I'm gonna go through just some implementation highlights, just to give you a flavor of what we're working on related to implementing the plan. Again, it's not everything, but just to provide you all some context. One of our core programs is energy efficiency. Back in 2011, City Council established the Energy Efficiency Fund. I said all about it. We're the only city in Texas and a handful nationally. We get calls all the time from folks saying, how did you establish it? Basically, my predecessors did it. Was it Lawrence?
Yes.
Lawrence Oxy, first Chief Sustainability Officer. Basically using, if everybody remembers the ARA funds, city got tens of millions of dollars. Basically investing those dollars in energy efficiency projects, lighting upgrades, and basically all of the energy savings along with CPS rebates were basically captured and put into a revolving fund. And the way it works is we implement energy projects. We'll have a contract to go in and determine, well, we're going to change the lights out and it'll cost X dollars and it'll pay back over 12 years. And so what we do is we know what that energy reduction is going to be. We basically reduce that department's utility budget by X, and the money goes back into the energy efficiency fund, and then there's more money to implement additional projects. So it's like lighting retrofits, HVAC replacements, retro commissioning, which is basically fine-tuning building operations. But since 2011, we've completed upwards of 424 projects, resulting in basically avoided costs of $1.7 million annually, which is significant. Most people don't do this, and I applaud my predecessors for getting this set up. But really, it is one of our core programs that also funds personnel out of that as well. Related to that is our municipal on-site solar projects. $30 million approved by council over 3 years to install rooftop parking and park canopy solar photovoltaics at 42 city facilities across all city council districts. They're all behind the meter, so none of the power is being sent back to the grid. It's offsetting upwards of 70 to 80% of each of those facilities' energy usage, which is significant. Practically all those facilities have also been recipients of energy efficiency fund investment. That's one of the things we really want people to understand. We're not just putting solar on these buildings without improving the energy efficiency. You need to do both. And so what we're also hoping to do is really go back and look at these facilities and how can we even improve the efficiency there. The goal, again, if you remember, the climate plan is by 2040, our facilities should be net zero. Basically meaning that any energy consumption is being offset. Easier said than done, but this is a huge start. We use state SECO, State Energy Conservation Office low interest loans, and then we've been leveraging federal clean energy tax credits, which really makes the project possible. Without it, the return on investment would not be there. But basically, expect the projects to pay back conservatively 10 to 11 years, which is pretty good. And then over a 20-year life, 20 to 25-year life of these improvements, it should be producing revenue back into the energy efficiency fund before work. And to date, 13 projects have been completed, totaling 4.1 megawatts. So from a carbon reduction perspective and implementing the climate plan, this is a huge step. It's the largest municipal on-site projects in Texas and only second to New York City. So this was a huge win for Golda and the team. EV charging continues to be, we're lagging behind nationally for cities our size. We had worked with procured a contractor to do on-site level 2 charging at city facilities. We've got 24 stations at 11 city sites. No cost to the city. I don't think we could get that agreement again because it's just, they're not making any money. But basically, again, we need to, the transition to carbon-free travel isn't that. I think there's that, but I think one of the things that's very important is that we have the right charging infrastructure in the right places. Most people charge at home, but yet when you're out and out, you need to have some confidence that there is somebody, someplace else to go. So we're going to continue to work on, and there's lots of models out there of publicly accessible charging infrastructure. City fleet is a huge priority. We've got almost 6,000 vehicles. Some of these are like huge trucks. I mean, it's everything. Not everything's going to be able to be electrified, but this was a fun nut to crack. It took a little while working across departments to get people comfortable with even considering electric vehicles. So we have a new policy that's been on the book for a few years now, but basically it requires prioritization of electric vehicles, particularly passenger cars and trucks. Countless studies have shown they're more efficient and more cost effective than traditional internal combustion engines. But so today, you can see we've got a number of electric vehicles. I mean, we started with one golf cart, I think, at the convention center. That was always sort of cool, or it was a few golf carts. Now in 2025, up to 125. And then coupled to that, with that is we've got 79 ports at 43 EV charging. So it's none of this is easy. It's fascinating when we talk with our fleet department. It's not like just buying electric vehicles and everyone's on their way. It's where is charging infrastructure going to go? Is the power there? None of this is easy. So we're thrilled that our fleet department has really led on moving this forward. This is a really big one to bond. We're talking, the last bond was what, $1.2 billion, which is great. And these are great projects. These are parks, these are roads, these are community facilities. In the last bond, our office, we actually hired somebody whose job is to work across departments on design and implementation of bond and capital projects, just to make sure that we are considering the implications of material differences or how does climate and resilience fit into these projects. What we're trying to do is, but we're sort of doing that after the fact. Projects have already been selected, and it was sort of the cart before the horse. So right now, we're coordinating with the Office of Resilience. We do have an Office of Resilience of equity on really sort of getting a more proactive planning process earlier on for the 2027 bond. And so basically it means we need to build resilient, equitable, and sustainable innovation. If we're investing $1 billion, how do we make sure we're really leveraging that to just get more than that or get more than a road? You all know this, resilience and sustainability are not just separate functions. It shouldn't be something that is just my office coming in after the fact and saying, well, we need to put trees here. It should be embedded early on in the process. How do we use this bonds more strategically meet goals? We have affordable housing goals. We've got mobility goals. We've got very clear council approved plans that were built upon community priorities. How do we ensure that the bond is meeting that? And the last bullet is perhaps most important to me. A coordinated and proactive planning process increases the bond's cumulative and measurable impact. How do we know that the bond is successful? Being built on budget on time is great, but is it increasing mobility options? Is it getting people out of their car? Is it reducing surface temperatures? So we're going to really challenge departments to think about not just the project in a nutshell, but what other benefits is it going to bring? The other thing we're doing is we're working with our IT department to develop a mapping tool. We're definitely going to want to work with you at the River Authority is projects should not just be looked at as individual silos as much as they're related to other projects or other opportunities. If we've got two projects that are within half a mile of each other, can they be connected somehow? So I think really starting to look at the bond as an opportunity to interconnect projects to maximize impact. Okay. Cool Neighborhood Program is one of our major priorities. Again, council is really interested in addressing heat. Our community is interested in heat. But when we look at this entire city, it's an enormous city. Where do we start? How do we reduce? And when we talk about heat, there's two parts of it. There's heat mitigation. What can we do to physically reduce temperatures in neighborhoods? And then there's heat response. What do we do when it's 105 degrees? Our office isn't really focused on the heat response. We're leading the heat mitigation. So what we did is we partnered with UTSA to just help map the city. Where is it hottest? Where are the hottest surface temperatures? And where are the most vulnerable communities? And not surprisingly, east side, west side, south side. That's where it's hottest and the most climate vulnerability. So what we're doing is we are targeting 4 areas in districts 2, 3, and 4. And if we wanted to pick one part of the city that's the hottest and the most vulnerable, it's the west side. They have the most census blocks that met our criteria. But the goal for this project is how do we mitigate heat in these neighborhoods with the tools that we have? So we've been spending a good year and a half, just educating city departments about there's multiple departments that have a role in heat, whether it's parks, who has trees, or our neighborhood and South Housing Services Department that has weatherization or reflective roof grants as part of the Under One Roof program. Shade structures. I mean, so basically bringing everyone together. And so we've been walking through this process with them, culminating in a very specific methodology that UTSA has, where in each one of these areas, we're going to identify a couple of spots where we are going to want to flood as much as possible with all of these measures. At the same time, working with UTSA deploying air and temperature quality, air quality and temperature sensors in people's homes. So we can start knowing if we do X, Y, and Z, what is the impact? And as a part of it, there's an implementation area and then there's control area. So having UTSA there helping to guide the methodology and how we're going to design this so we can actually measure impact is huge and it's innovative. And I'm not aware of any, I mean, multiple cities are really on the track. They're trying to address the LA, Phoenix in particular. This is one way that we're trying to address it. And Leslie, anything else on heat?
No, I think we're in a really good place in a long journey, and we're getting to this kind of peak where we're going to start to see all of these collaborative efforts really come to life, and the collaborations with FARA, with CPS, with all of these departments. And so this time next year, we're excited to kind of report back what those results are. We're, really digging deep and changing the approach, where before it was the city has this idea or this is what we want to do implementation wise. And then UTSA was trying to figure out how they were going to, adjust or kind of analyze that data. And this time around, we kind of flipped the switch and said, okay, UTSA, you recommend to us how we should implement so that the data makes sense from the go.
So overlaying the Cool Neighborhoods program with your bond program, has there been a physical risk assessment for city buildings? Because city buildings as a corporation are just as vulnerable.
Yeah, we haven't done that.
Yeah, so there's tiers, right? And so right now we're going for the neighborhood level,
There is the most need there.
Yeah, exactly.
I see.
Exactly. The most needed equity, those people, like Doug said, in those areas. What we've learned through this process that their homes inside on a peak summer day are 115 degrees.
Yeah.
That's insane. It is 100, you know what I mean? So that's why like that was me need focus. Doug and I were talking today and it's like businesses are next. And then, including our COSA like inventory and a little bit of that overlap is already happening with the municipal on-site solar program because another co-benefit to that is not only are we offsetting energy, but we're not bringing shade to those public spaces of like our libraries. We're providing shade for our drivers at the at the service centers, right? And so we're already doing some of this and some of the projects are already kind of in.
Those are potential heating or cooling.
I think the thing that's so pivotal with this is, and we'll talk about it in a few more slides, is we did work in the west side with Puerto Vida, and, what I learned, I'm sure many of you already do, is, I mean, there's a distrust, in communities of city governments or other entities. There's confusion, it's complicated, there's barriers, and so I think what we're really hoping to do, having city folks knock on people's doors saying, "Are you interested in this?" The answer is going to be no. But if we partner with a trusted partner who can help present and help facilitate that, and focusing on a few blocks, so it's not just deploying heat, it's building trust. It's coming up with that model that is really going to make people consider participating in these.
We still using promo photos?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we're getting ready to start our engagement, and communications campaign as we're gonna go into implementation and all of that. And so, yeah, promotoras are a big piece of that. Our community-based organizations, this group, we hope that you can help us share information and just get them, programs and resources so that we can get them the help they need.
Think that we're about any of this or?
No, I was letting you, you were doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deborah's been a great partner over there.
Yeah, I partner with West. I've been working in that neighborhood for about 5 years. It's kind of south, it's below Highway 90. And it's south and, I guess, at the same time. And it's right by Kelly Air Base. A huge industrial area. Right over the toxic plume. So we've got a lot of challenges over there. A lot of the houses are built in the 1940s, Airbnb. There's lots of structural issues because a lot of the homeowners, they own their homes, but a lot of them were the men and women who worked at Kelly, or at Fort Sam, or at Blackland their entire lives, retired at 55, and they're getting the same paycheck that they received at 55. There's no cost of living increases in the civil servant retirement side, and now 30, 40 years have gone by. So although their houses are well manicured, you go by the house, it's cute, but then you see it hasn't been painted. The roof looks like this. There's holes in the wall, and it's as wonderful as the cost of effort program is with CPS. They can't weatherize those houses because of electricity from the 1940s. Holes in the roof, they're gonna make you, so even the people that, when I show up with my flyers and House of Ed, they want, why aren't people signing up? And, yeah, I didn't qualify. They already know what their status is in that program. And so there's more challenges, and the good thing is Doug sent Kate out that way and Helena, and they've been talking to all of us and finding out what they can do to change that aspect.
It's a challenge.
Is there a stat out there of the level of uninsured homes in the area?
You can find that out, right?
I mean, only from my market. I wouldn't know from the insurance market.
I don't know that, but yeah.
I
It is because I get that all the time. They don't have insurance. They can't get insurance.
Can't get insurance.
Insurance is too old. They've got a hole in the roof. as soon as the insurance company goes out there, it's like, oh, well, you've got to fix your roof. Well, I don't have the money to buy my medicine and pay my electric bill. How do you supposed to fix my roof? And the roof program is on hold. And so,
This is the challenge, you know, it's particularly when you start talking about federal dollars, there's so many, so for the Cool Neighborhood Program, our Neighborhood Housing Services Department, their under one roof program has restrictions. It's to your point, if your roof doesn't meet certain minimum standards, you can't participate. But what we were able to do is we were able to secure some additional funding as part of this year's grant, this year's budget for NHSC to deploy the program in these target areas without all those restrictions because it's not federally funded. So I think it's, you know, the challenge we run into is there's only so, the need is so great where the dollars head. So I think what our office is trying to do is proof of concept that if we have an increased flexibility, if we take a different approach, we can have more impactful uptake.
And we can have neighborhood health do a presentation about like processes, but from what I understand is they're working with the homeowner through these conversations that they're having and, you know, to the problem identified of like, we can't insure this home because it doesn't meet the insurance, you know, survey. And so it's like, okay, but if we go through this process, then your roof will be up to standard and now it will pass that inspection. And so now it's insurable and then maybe your rate is lower, right? Making it, so it's like, we're having all those conversations with them, trying to get them the service, but also address and try and mitigate those other barriers that are present. And so it's a very interesting concept. So we've learned a lot, but I think we're all kind of in the atmosphere trying to get them the help. A lot of good stuff.
I will say one other thing. When early on, my first year with Public Citizen, I had about a good maybe 5 people that they needed the roofs, and I am a recipient of the roof. I got that at one time as a single mom, and they put the white roof on me and made a huge difference. So I did that, and I knew how to apply for it and all of that. The problem is a lot of people, they don't have computers, they don't have Wi-Fi. There's no libraries on our side of town. You take 2 buses, 3 buses, and so when that call comes on and says, hey, the one roof program is open, by the time they go down to, say, their city council office to get it done, all of the slots are taken because people who can use the computer do it like that night, stay up until midnight, and by the next morning, all the money's gone. So we need the promotoras to come out there and to really move on the situation if we want to see change.
Move forward, so make sure we have time for you guys to chat. Another program that we're thrilled with, but in budget cuts, was we developed a community action fund. We actually had money. Basically, $2 million total funded for businesses, and the majority of those grants went to small businesses, really needed the money, and then community organizations. Basically it was, hey, if you've got a project that meets the objectives of the climate plan, apply. And then we had a interdepartmental and agency selection committee. We'll be producing a mid-year report. We need to sell this to council that there's impact in this, that this isn't just giving $20,000 to anybody. But there have been amazing, I mean, just really interesting projects from solar, charging infrastructure, gardens. There was a business in the west side, if I remember correctly. They had no air conditioning in it was a restaurant, like it was in their kitchen, and so it would be like 150 degrees in there. So this funding provided them the ability to get like a mini split, and so especially people. So the thing that I realized was the need is so incredible there. And again, we're hoping that we start getting, we're asking recipients to really dive into what is the impact? How do we put this together and then go to council and say, look, this wasn't just giving money out, but we accomplish X or Y. So it's most cities don't do this. It was a really great opportunity, but again, we're tied to the budget, and unfortunately, I doubt this next year's budget is going to be any better. But what we have been doing is, now, what are the other funding opportunities to keep our programs going? Opportunities to engage with local foundations. Maybe there's private sector or business or industry sponsorship. We've got to figure something out to keep this going, because again, the need is there and the challenge is just going to continue to get worse. This is perhaps the most, I think, intriguing project that we're working on right now, because it sort of gets to the, in my mind, the core of what resilience is. The city has city-sponsored resilience hubs, basically a community center for the most part, senior centers. They're, Resilient Hub is a place where people go on a daily basis to get services, but then there are some place to go if another winter storm period hits. If it's, but one of the things we realize is there's a dawn on us where you all knew this. There's such an incredible network of community and faith-based organizations already doing this work. So the thought was, how can we support that? How can we help create a network where we're providing capacity building, resources that could eventually lead these entities becoming their own little resilient hubs. But so basically, we're calling them points of distribution because we don't want to confuse everybody with, well, the city's got resilient hubs. So, but basically, they're just self-selecting organizations and entities that want to be part of this process. We have a series of trainings that we take them through where they need to define what does resilience mean for their organization and their community. What are their goals around what does it mean to be a point of distribution? Are we a place that we want to distribute food during certain times of need? Some places can be a communication hub. We commit to help, connect people. So currently there's 24 of these pods. There's a various toolkits. And this is basically going to be a multi-year program just building this network. And it also becomes an asset for the city that if an event occurs, there's entities already on the ground that we can coordinate with. The latest toolkit, I think, is super cool. It's as simple as helping people in a community meet their neighbors. So basically, I forget what it's called. But basically, each pod will have a coordinator who will be responsible for helping set up these little people pods across their neighborhood, that if something happens, these are the 5 people that I'm going to, touch base with. And again, when we look at resilience and we look at, response to emergencies, we know communities that have the strongest social cohesion respond the best. And this is just a very simple tool to try to build that. And I'm almost.
It's a chicken track.
It's really, and also it's a mobile incubator, and so while they're working on the field, but we already have little eggs and hatchlings in the.
I'll give a quick example of one of these. I've been going to the neighborhood office. One lady, she organized her whole neighborhood and they identified seniors or people with disabilities on every street. And so each street has a team captain that they work with. So in the event of another freeze or a heat emergency, they've got their phone numbers of everybody. They know what kind of situation they're in so that they can help the city mobilize and help their neighbors. So that's what they did with one of their funds.
Is there a minimum standard related to being this leader? Because you would need a vehicle that can drive in.
We're learning as we get along, and I think.
Because we have the same thing, and but we have certain people because of the vehicles they have. But we keep water on hand, and they take water to.
One of the things that we're learning is, I think if we were to pull in folks from Office of Emergency Management right now, not that they would be, I think the needle that we're trying to thread is not endorsing these for any, these aren't city endorsed places for people to go. We're just
Right.
trying to
Right.
facilitate and support, because once we do that, all those requirements kick in. Does your staff have the training? If an event occurs, are you gonna open?
Right.
We can't get into that at this point. This is more us just trying to help boost what's already happening.
Okay, so something of send alert now, press 1 if you're okay, press 2 if you're not okay. That's not something that can be included here.
It depends on the level of the pod, right? So we want to empower them and be able to like help them solve that. And so some of them are comfortable with just being a communication pod, which is just essentially what we know as a phone tree, right? Hey, this is happening, let's check on this person. But do you need help? Let me send you a resource, right? That's that piece. And then you have the ones that are providing maybe like day-to-day services already as part of the operations, where they're a food pantry or they're providing meals. And so now it's just kind of like, if something does happen, then it's just making the network or the people that they service aware that now there's meals here, there's food, there's,
Nice.
have electricity. And then the bigger version of it is when it maybe a church that's more established or can provide sheltering or anything like that. We haven't fully developed any of those yet because it's an extensive project, but the hope is that, again, we get to a point where the neighborhoods are helping themselves and they're sustaining themselves.
And then basically the process is we went into this partnering with these organizations as part of a learning process. Right? We don't know where this is going to go. We want these entities in the community to lead it. So again, we're just trying
Yeah,
to.
but I can see where we want to balance the liability.
I'm almost done. Just wanted to highlight 3. These are funded by the U.S. Department of Energy, the Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant. Still seems to be in effect. But there's 3 programs. A part of this one, the airport is developing an energy master plan for the entire expansion. How are they building energy efficiency and resilience into the expansion? Continuing to look at how do we expand public accessible charging infrastructure. And one of the really cool ones that we're really thrilled about is this hopefully people might have seen it. It's a low income e-bike program. It's modeled after Denver. Denver has more money than they would do, and they've got a sales tax. And so they generate 50, 60, $70 million a year. And they developed a e-bike incentive program with sliding scale. So if you were middle class, you can get $200 incentive, but it went all the way up to, I think, the $1,200 incentive. They had like thousands of these available. They open them up and they're gone in like 3 minutes. But we have 244 vouchers. We're hoping we can get some money for a few more. But again, all it is providing a $1,000 voucher. It'll be a lottery system, but it's just getting somebody who may have mobility challenges an opportunity to get in. The intent is, and it's not just that it's good for the environment. Somebody may not have a car. They may not afford to have a car. They can throw it on via bus and potentially help them get to work or services. It just seems so. The real key for this is we want to again measure impacts, and so we're working with National Renewable Energy Lab, who also work with Denver, that have a mobile app that we're asking recipients to participate in. It doesn't give us any specific individual data. It all gets aggregated, but again, to be able to show the community and council that this investment did result in this impact.
So these are not the bikes, these are actually.
This is, I get $1,000 voucher. I go to the bike shop, and we believe they should almost cover the cost for a bike. If they want to do something a little higher end, they could pay the difference, but it is somebody owning that bike. Okay,
I'm sorry, could you go back, because I love something.
Well,
So would we have people then getting, people that I know that may would use it, with them to contact?
so what we,
How's it work?
Yeah, thank you for that. So what we did, since we only had 244 vouchers, we want to make sure we have income qualification. What we did was we partnered with our neighborhood housing services department, who has a list of like 2,000 residents who've been pre-qualified as part of an NHSC program. So we're just working within that cohort. But again, I would love for this to be, every year we've got a pot of money where we can get people to these bikes. So I believe it can be a game changer for some people. So my next slide is just next steps, but I just wanted to pause and just sort of open up. What do you think in terms of what we're working on? Are there things that you guys are interested in? I just want to sort of have an open conversation if you guys want to chat.
Just on the slide before, about the climate ready neighborhoods, so something similar with COVID. I know we were talking about COVID and impact, but one of the things that we started doing for senior centers, which should be located on the west side of San Antonio, nursing students would do wellness calls. So similar to this, and we had that model of doing those wellness calls and how quickly then we could get to them when they needed pet food, they needed food. But another good partner, and you may have already started, is Meals on Wheels. And because of their, how they model, not only do they deliver meals, but the volunteer is instructed that if you're not get in touch with, or you're not able to get them into the door, that there's always a wellness check, follow up with them. And if you can't get them on the phone, then the police will go out. So they have a really good model in place, and so it may be something you want to connect with, because there's going to be one part of it, and they go through all of the cities.
Yeah, that might be a good, interesting like layer to add on, like where there are gaps or like, where those connections are naturally occurring. So yeah, definitely, Lord and Chad connect.
Two questions, but I just want to start by saying you asked what we think. I am so excited to be back on a panel like this because I love so much that San Antonio does all these things. I think it's amazing.
For now until we're told.
You know what? I'm
You're an optimist.
Don't ask me about that with my job, but national labs are being affected by a lot of the things. But the two things I was going to ask are, one, with the bike program, are you also connecting with the city services to figure out bike lanes?
Yeah. So the other thing I didn't mention, as a part of the e-bike program, there's some other requirements, just, I'll get to that question, but your question is, they get a helmet, they have to go to that Alamo area and give street skills class to learn how to ride safely, so we definitely wanted to set them up. But this is, bike infrastructure has always been this chicken and egg thing in San Antonio, and so I think the hope is more bikes out there are going to help reinforce the need for the bike master plan. Is it called the bike master bike? It's called the bike.
Is it still the Bike Master?
No, it's different. Bike network.
Oh, yeah.
That was passed this last year. It's a priority with this council, but what's the next council going to look like? I was in Houston. Excuse me, the new mayor's ripping out bike infrastructure. It's very fickle, but we need both. And I think bike infrastructure is the crux of it. One of the things we also talked about was we want to do a lottery for these vouchers. We want to distribute them across the city, but where it's safe, there's certain areas of the city that are safe than other areas. So I think, it's a really difficult question. But again, I'm hoping that this helps support that program.
My second question is whether you mentioned overlays with the bond initiatives. What about the SA Ready work rate SA
Ready to work
program? Because I'm curious if there's opportunities to implement some of the sustainability initiatives with people who are in a job program.
So, couple things. continue to talk to the city, the ready to work folks. When you look at the programs that are built into that, green jobs aren't there, right? I mean, and so I think it's a huge gap that we're trying to address. But we continue to have conversations around the cool neighborhood program. If there's a tree planting designated for this corridor, how do we get people in the neighborhood to do the work themselves? Or there's weatherization. I think we want to look at these pilots as an opportunity to build that workforce component. It's just not as easy as we hope it was. Same thing for, I don't have a slide for it. We're part of a cohort that received federal dollars from EPA for solar for all. I think the cohort, it was led by Harris County. You've got Dallas, you've got Austin. I mean, it's a whole bunch of us. The city got $21 million. Community home got 21 and change. And it's for the deployment of solar with the objective of direct financial benefit to low income residents. It also supports battery storage. So how do we ensure that those jobs are going to people in our community? And so in that grant, I believe we have about $1 million set aside for job training. Again, we'll be working with the ready to work. So that's got to be a component for everything that we're doing. It's not, in my opinion, fair to say we're going to come in and improve your neighborhood, but you're not going to get the benefit of the job experience or the job. Yes.
I have a question. I thank you for bringing up Rachel work and about that, but I think if I recall, one of the jobs that is, or the training, I should say, that's part of Ready for Work is public daughters and community health workers. And I'm wondering, because you had said you're doing work with public daughters, is there a model of some training that you have? Because I know a lot of organizations now are using health workers, public daughters. And is there a set curriculum that you're training the Ready to Work, the training that's going on there, or on the broader sense, the nonprofits that are using them?
You want to speak for it?
Yeah, so there is a program that we looked into, and it would be the investment of sending like train the trainer, right, to get this, because I believe Denver's doing it. They have the curriculum, so we would go get it and then bring it back. But I think that that's a good point. We can explore that with Ready to Work and see if we can add it to the curriculum. Even with this room, I believe if we had to sit down and like crunch out a curriculum, we could do it, right? And so, let me engage with Ready to Work and get maybe an eye or just more feedback on what their curriculum is for that career track, and then we'll see what updates we can include. But I think that that's a great addition to something that's already in the pipeline and already established.
The other model that we've looked at is Austin has a
Green Corps?
Green Corps, Climate Corps. I mean, it's the model's there. It just comes down to the funding for it. And, the Biden administration launched they had a Climate Corps program. I was really hopeful that they'll be funding with it, but that all evaporated because it's pretty, not that, but there's need in our community for these green jobs. It's just what's the funding source and what's that might be a great topic to build into the climate plan. Maybe that's a priority project that we want to put forward. So, but I think there's tremendous opportunity. Any other?
I know somebody, her name is Olga Gonzalez, she's in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, that's the hard.
I know this is somebody, and you talked to her, good.
Well, no, it's you and Kate and me about it, and so I was like, okay, how do we, because, the workforce component's always part of our discussions. She's like, we're in the program, and they're already doing it.
It's like coming down here, and
Yes, yeah, so that's,
she's amazing, and she started TED Talk out if you look her up, then it'd be a great opportunity. Oh, I didn't know if that was a joke.
Yeah, and that was like Denver's pinging, and I'm like, is there gonna be right? So yeah, that's the one that we're thinking about. So, we haven't kind of forgotten about it, and we want to keep following up and see how we can, bring it to fruition.
I'm just gonna pivot, we've got about 50 minutes left, so thank goodness. No, not thank goodness.
You're doing great.
But then we got everything in, but just in terms of some immediate next steps, we need to identify a chair and vice chair. So what we'll be doing is we'll be following up with an email, soliciting interest, maybe just a simple survey. And then the next time we gather, we'll put forward that slate and vote. Basically, those folks are going to help lead the meeting and help coordinate. Really invaluable. About the previous meeting we had, previous committee we had Melissa Bryant from the River Authority, who did an amazing job. So big shoes to fill. And then the other big thing is the first climate plan update. First climate plan, and generally with these planning processes, we'll need subcommittees. You guys will need help. And so the first plan we had, again, focus areas, whether it's grid or whether it's transportation. And so again, we'll be surveying you, asking your interest in, we'll need a lead for each one of those. Again, somebody that can lead and help facilitate those meetings. We'll help populate those. We'll reach out to different stakeholders, but again, it's just really figuring out who wants to do what in terms of a leadership role. Anything else from that service? That's pretty straightforward, right? So the last slide I had is, so we'd always envisioned quarterly meetings. I think as a part of a plan update, I don't know if that will work, but because we may want more touch points. So as a part of this survey that we'll be sending out, we'll be asking you your tolerance for meeting potentially more regularly. I don't believe monthly meetings are warranted. It could be every other month. Again, this climate plan update is the critical task at hand to make sure that it's right and it's right for our community. So again, I'm just afraid I don't know if a quarterly meeting will suffice. So we'll incorporate that into our questionnaire for you all. And then we'll also, that survey will also have other questions just about how the meetings, and be open and transparent. How we want to be able to reflect on how the meetings are going and make sure that we're responsive to your all of your needs.
Can Sean, rein me in if this is not, but I just want to maybe set expectations. As y'all know, we're going into election cycle, and so because now we are council appointed, just know that there may be some changes or updates as we go into that. Sabrina will provide updates and communications on how that impacts us, how that affects us, and just bear with us. I think we're all going to be on the same roller coaster, but we will be working through that. So we might see some new faces, or speak to your council person if you want to remain on, so that's an easy process for them and you don't have to worry about it. And so just do want to just kind of put that out there that we will have that happening, but we will try and make sure we're communicating and that we're keeping everybody informed. If you have any questions, send them our way. If we can't answer, Sean can, or the office is in there.
John, wouldn't you want our advice before your budget session?
Yeah, this is just the first blush. We'll go. I will be meeting more, right? Yeah, but I didn't want to, because originally we said quarterly, and I just don't want to make the assumption that, but yes.
As a person living in a district affected by lots of industrial waste and emissions, are we going to tackle greenhouse gases and emissions in these industrial businesses that are all over the south and west side and east side?
It's all open for, again, we're here to facilitate. We have specific needs that we need you guys to weigh in, but I think it's also a two-way street. I think it's if there needs to be a subcommittee to talk about it, I just, the one thing I would just, I just want to make sure we don't bite off too much.
Yeah.
Or it can be incorporated into the plan update discussions. I think we need to think about what's the best avenue, but no, this is your meeting. And so I think, the previous committee, it's just getting the rest of the committee members on board to go down a certain path.
I guess I'm finding in just, even like with working with recyclers, a lot of them are independent business owners, and they would like to update their equipment to less, toxic equipment, but,
Well, it could be as simple
money,
as
things like that can be easy, fixes.
something, I hate saying it could be a simple, but one of the approaches of that could be is, I mean, we've got a PACE program, property assessed clean energy program. I mean, basically, this, and we're getting more and more, financial institutions that are interested in PACE. So it might be as simple as, let's have a meeting where we get those property owners together with the PACE folks to talk through, this is how you finance the improvements that you want. Because I think we're up to 4 or 5 pretty significant PACE projects done, mostly on hotels and the commercial side, but industrial properties are eligible as well. So let's talk offline about possibly setting. The other thing I wanted to mention before we break is, so we have 5 institutional members. We've got Sarah, we've got VIA, we've got JPSA, we've got CPS, and we've got SAWS. The rep from SAWS was out sick today. VIA declined to participate. Their board was nervous about being involved in a climate initiative due to what's happening at the federal level, which I get. Whatever, and JBSA wanted to participate, but when they looked at all of the executive orders, they realized that they so I just wanted you guys to know that we're down to, hopefully things will calm down. I really would love to have VIA here. I mean, they could still participate, I think, in an unofficial manner, but they weren't comfortable in officially acknowledging this. Any last,
Question about the meetings. I don't know what the current rules are about hybrid meetings, or if that's part of a plan at any given time.
yeah, I think we want to avoid those. I think when it created a lot of confusion and anxiety, and they were difficult, I think. And it seems most city meetings are all occurring in person now, so I think we just want to stick with that.
So we're planning on these meetings for sure, and then perhaps more.
Yeah, and we'll block those out, but again, we'll get you something next week. We just want to ask you guys first anonymously, just to see that comfort level before assuming. Staff would not support every month. That is not sustainable, but is it every 2 months, every 3 months? There's got to be more touch points than 4 times a year for what we have to try to have. Well, thank you so much, all. I appreciate it. Thank you for throwing your head in. We'll see how it goes. And as the official convener, we need a motion. Motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
In favor? Okay, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Yeah.